Okay, so I don't know what to call this. Fighting philosophy? Something like that. I don't know where to start. But the difference between fighting me and fighting most people is that I'm a jacked up individual and kind of a psycho. And basically, there's a thin red line between humanity and being fucking Conan or some shit. I ride the line. That's what makes me dangerous. And it's like a way you carry yourself. It's a way you look at the world. It's a way you approach everything. It's your life philosophy is what makes you dangerous. 110%. The part of my life philosophy that makes me dangerous is some fucking shit that, what's his name? Tecumseh said. I'm not going to say the whole thing, but the part that I like is live your life so that the fear of death can never enter your heart. These are words to live by. When someone produces a pistol at you in close range, do you cower in fear from the fucking pistol, or do you rush the gunman? This is the difference. I'll take my fucking chances. What's he gonna do? Mortally wound me? At best? You ought to get that, provided that the pistol isn't pointed directly at my fucking head, that might change things, but that tends to not be what people fucking do in real life. People are generally speaking afraid to point a fucking gun in your face. And if they do that, also, there's options or whatever like that. It does change things, though. It depends on where they're going to point the gun. But, for example, if someone has a gun pointed at you mid-level in the dark, you're not even sure if it's really a gun or not. Are you going to do what that man says? Or are you going to fight? This is some, like, fight or flight shit, really, that, like, because I'm me and I don't really run that well, never have, it's never been a skill that I've possessed. Guess how my fight or flight is kind of rigged? It ain't rigged for running away. I'm going to make you shoot me. Just to be quite frank. I have a bayonet on my shit for a reason. There's way worse things than dying. There's either being taken alive or there's living every day as a coward. Those are your choices. Like, this is some shit James Yeager got. It's what made him dangerous. Which you could debate, right? Everyone likes to talk shit about him. In reality, the people that talk shit about him and his gunfight in Iraq probably don't know shit about shit. I did not get this philosophy from James Yeager. I always appreciated that he had it. It's one of the things I actually liked about that son of a bitch. The place that I got it was Captain Ralph Brown Jr., United States Marine Corps. Retired. My grandfather believed in teaching me two things, really, at its core. There's many other things, but if I was going to take two things away, it was being a really, really good shot with a rifle and being the person that fucks back, basically. instead of being the person that fucking, you know, gets hit in the face and doesn't know what to do, basically. There's a lot of people that, like, have a plan until they get hit in the face, right? And, like, a lot of people look at me and assume that, they assume quite a bit. I got told once that, someone would kick my ass because of my untrained knuckles. Or some shit like that. And that honestly made me laugh because that person doesn't know me. I've actually never punched a fucking punching bag. It should disturb you as to what I might have punched. You know? I've punched everything from, like, living cows to frozen sides of beef to people to fucking car bodies to walls to fucking all sorts of shit, man. One of the first things I ever hit was a fucking wooden 4x4 that I broke my hand and I broke the 4x4. After that, I learned how to throw a punch. This is where, you know, I would say that, like, the thing for me that was getting punched in the face was getting shot. Getting shot and feeling what that was like, working through the problem, solving the problem, getting out of the situation, and then figuring out how to get medical help. Okay? Doing all of that on the fly with, you know, nothing but me. I have a level of confidence from that experience and a few others that, I don't know, it makes me a little arrogant on some things, I guess. I think it's pretty well deserved most of the time. And if it's not, it's that mentality that's going to make you rise above the top, in my opinion. Like, this is a lot of opinion in this video. But in a fight, any fight is the same, basically. Whether it's swords and horses and artillery or fucking tanks or fists. Doesn't fucking matter. Like, the thing that's going to win you a fight 99 times out of 100 is violence. Violence of action and speed of action will win fights, period. And this is some shit that the U.S. military is about to learn all over the fucking again, probably. We're about to learn a lot of shit all over again. If we go to war in fucking Ukraine and Taiwan and shit. Real gangster move on the Taiwan thing. If they start looking like they're going to invade Taiwan, I would invade North Korea. The Chinese would have to counter invade because we would walk through North Korea mostly if we wanted to. We did it before. MacArthur took us all the way to fucking China. I think Big Mac had the right idea. I think we shouldn't have fucking stopped till we burned fucking Beijing. As a result, we already have a large land force in Korea that is made of the U.S. military and Koreans, and they don't like China. And those boys could be real easily convinced to go, and that's what I would do. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about combat philosophy, basically. And what I'm going to tell you is, do you want to live forever? You should consider that. You should consider what that means. Living forever, or living to be an old fucking man dying in a bed, is a sad, sad way to go. Now, seeing your family and whatever, that's an important thing. Having children and whatever, that's an important thing. Do you have faith in God? I have a little bit of faith that things will be what they will be. Neither I am meant to exist or I am not meant to exist. I'm not going to go running into fucking machine gun fire. But at the same time, I'm not going to like go, ooh, not going to do that. It's that indecision that gets you fucking killed. Never hesitate. If there's anything that you should take away from this whole thing is no matter what you fucking do something. Do anything. It's better than fucking hesitating. That's in all fights, regardless of what it is. Again, speed of action and violence of action. One of my favorite quotes ever on fighting is from Wyatt Earp, though, and it has to do with the speed thing. It's speed is fine, accuracy is final. It's pretty solemn words from a man that stood there coldly while he was being shot at and slowly murdered, 4 people. Protected by divine providence. That's what he said. I think he's just good. I think anyone that has the balls to just stand there and coldly stare people in the eye while they're taking bullets and fucking cut meat every time he pulls the fucking trigger, that's someone you should fucking listen to. In a nutshell. I kind of mourn for what is about to happen in my mind. Like, I see the lessons that we're about to learn over again. Many of them. Fuck, you can look at their fucking weapons procurement programs. The weapons procurement programs that they're doing now remind me of the 1960s in so many ways that it seems like we are getting ready to be in another war for money run by the Democrats. The last time they did this was Vietnam, and it was Johnson and his lying fucking dogs that did it. Kennedy was trying to keep us out of Vietnam or at a limited involvement. Johnson, as soon as he got in, started escalating Vietnam in ways that didn't make sense, really. They're doing it again. And this is why I think it matters that you know how to take a fucking punch. Because we're about to take a hell of one. I've been taking punches most of my life. And like, this is one of the things, again, that people probably don't get about me is I am the person that would let you punch me 3 or 4 times before I hit you. I'm going to let you sign your own death warrant because you can't knock me out. Better men than you have tried. Most people, it's a height thing. They can't actually fucking punch hard enough, high enough to fucking knock me unconscious. At least not and get inside of my guard and everything else. Like, assuming that you're doing your part, like, having a good foot on everybody makes it rather interesting to be in a fist fight against them. It's like you're fighting a child. It's been my experience in hand-to-hand combat. Like, this is why I really am not that concerned about that. Never have been. I know a little bit of shit that I've picked up here and there. Honestly, most of the things I ever focused on was sword fighting, knife fighting, because I thought that was just interesting. And by knife fighting, I don't mean fighting with knives against each other. I mean, like, stabbing people. That's knife fighting, quote unquote, I think is hilarious. Like, this is a kind of aside, but knife fighting isn't a thing. Sword fighting is a thing. With knives, you just stab people. Or you both have knives and then you both stab each other. Pretty much. Anyway. I kind of always felt like Homer Simpson. If you ever watched the episode where Homer Simpson boxes, he fights Muhammad Ali. And he damn near wins because his whole goal in boxing or whatever is that he just sits there and takes punches until people get so tired that he can knock them over. And it works on everybody until he gets to Muhammad Ali, who is like a punching machine or whatever. In the era that they are depicting this is probably the fucking 80s for all I remember. Fucking hilarious, though. The fact that Homer's fucking, like, fucked up brain fat or something makes him immune to being punched in the head. Like, allowed him to be the best boxer in the world because he was a fucking punching bag. You know, that's kind of how I always felt anytime I ever fought anybody. I usually just let people do what they were going to do. And somewhere in there, I did what I was going to do. Which usually just involved grabbing them and picking them up and dropping them. Most people don't expect you to escalate things to picking you up and throwing you on the ground. But I always kind of found it to be like one of those things. It's like throwing a bucket of water on a mad person. Like, he's probably madder, but he's also reconsidering what he was doing. You know, he's sitting there soaking wet now, thinking if he wants another bucket of water. He's now sitting there on the ground feeling his ass hurt, getting that I'm about to stomp him the fuck to death. Because, like, here's the other thing. Is like, I don't really like punching people. It hurts my hands. I use my hands to work. I would much rather fucking throw you on the ground and then stomp you to death with cowboy boots. And this is, you know, end of the world shit. You know, it may pay you to at least know a little bit about fighting. And the thing that strikes me the most is that basically I live in a generation of people that everyone stopped fighting 30 years ago. The only reason I've ever been in any fights at all is because I actively look for shit, or did at one point in my life, and I do crazy stuff. You know, if you fucking go bang trans women and fucking do drugs and fucking fuck married dudes and get shot at by their wives as you run away from their house, you know, shit happens. That was a fun story. Maybe I'll tell that someday. One of the things I remember that strikes me now that we're talking is one of the movies I watched with my grandfather was produced by John Milius. Forget the name of it. It has Gene Hackman in it. They end up going back to Vietnam with World War II weapons. Something Valor. It's not Act of Valor. That's a different movie. Anyway, whatever it's called, that's Patrick Swayze and Gene Hackman, and it's a good movie. In that, there's a part where they have some crazy ex-Special Forces dude competing with Patrick Swayze about chopping down some telephone pole or something. And after the ex-Special Forces dude beats him, Patrick Swayze stops chopping, and the ex-Special Forces dude goes and chops down his tree, too. and tells him that in Special Forces they don't ever quit. That scene always stuck with me because it's kind of like the difference between them and a regular soldier is a lot of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's that. It's that they've been punched in the face before and they don't quit. And this is the combo that I think you should have. Like, whatever it is that you're afraid of, go get hip deep in it. That's what I do. That's how I conquer fears. I don't know if that's 100% the right way to do it. Most psychologists would probably tell you not to do that. I had a whole bunch of fears of different shit. The only one that still bothers me somewhat is heights. And that's not a heights thing. That's I'm afraid to be in a very high place on something that I do not trust. So it's a trust issue, not a heights issue. You know, I don't think that's really a fear thing. That's like a can't get past knowing what I know about unstable things. I was laughing watching, there's that Canadian dude that does stealth camping, Steve Walls maybe. He was doing a thing somewhere and he crossed a fucking like wire bridge. It's like, an old school like rope bridge with boards and shit. The modern day version of those is like a steel wire cable thing with some like pavers on it. I don't know exactly what those are made out of. Doesn't matter. He was going across one of those, which I would consider to be a fun thing to cross because it's kind of bouncy and it's safe as fuck because it's a steel cable suspension bridge. And he was afraid to walk across that. When I was a kid, I probably would have been too. I think this is, there's a whole lot of people in this world right now that are going to have to do some growing up. And a whole bunch of people are going to have to learn to harden their hearts, I think. That's going to be a hard one for today's generation. I don't know how the fuck that's going to go over. I like the things now in some of these countries that are going to have to go to war, where they're like drafting fucking K-pop bands and shit and being like, they're in the army now. Like, okay. Because that's not obviously propaganda. I think James Yeager would have called this like warrior mindset. I think that's what I'm going to call this video. Every time I try to think about warrior mindset, I always like to watch Jeremiah Johnson. The movie Jeremiah Johnson is like church or the Bible for me. Should be for you too. I'll also put it to you that in the original version of that script, that dude was eating the livers of the Indians he killed and tripping out on psychedelic mushrooms the whole time. So, I'm not saying you should do some fucking mushrooms, but apparently it's highly encouraged. Can't recommend the liver eating party. I don't like fucking cooked livers from animals, much less a fucking raw liver from a human. That sounds disgusting. But there's many parts in Jeremiah Johnson that I would consider to be kind of like warrior mindset philosophy related. And one of them is when he's talking to Del Q. And he says, "Where are you going?" He says, "The same place as you, Jeremiah. Hell in the end." So a little bit of that. I think, yeah, according to what a lot of people believe, people like me are doomed for fucking hell. So, and I don't mean for the trans shit. That's on top of it. The part that makes me doomed for hell is the fact that I cut meat every time I pull the fucking trigger without hesitation. I'm a killer. You should be too. What makes the fucking grass grow, you know? There's a whole bunch of like Marine Corps that is folded in with my like religion and life philosophy because so much of it came from my grandfather. And I don't really know what to make of that. I just enjoy it at this point because it's in the day and age we live in. I think, why the fuck not? Kind of, you know. I kind of make my tribute to him my Space Marines shit. I remember watching Aliens with him, and it was one of the few sci-fi movies he liked because basically he saw Alien and he bitched the entire time about why they didn't just shoot it in the fucking face. Aliens answered his question, and he got to see, you know, Space Marines in the 21st century or whatever. And we talked about that at length, about how fucking badass that was and kind of where things were probably going to be headed. We debated quite a bit on how technological things were going to get. And I think in reality, he was right and I was wrong. I was saying we're looking at crazy, crazy tech. And I think the reality of it is anything that's crazy tech-wise is going to be expensive and limited in production. So the question is, what can we make a whole fucking bunch of? Well, mass production capability-wise, our military would probably be stuck in the mid 2000s, probably, maybe a little after. If you really want to make shit cheap and affordable and whatever, we could issue everybody night vision. But as far as like having powered mech suits and shit like that, there might be some of those that are like replacing tanks. But they aren't going to be very common. And I honestly think that shit is probably never going to really pan out. Maybe I'm wrong about that. There's a pretty good chance I'm wrong about that. But I've seen what they're developing, basically. And I think, you know, go watch Iron Man 2. And the part where, what's his name? The fake Russian dude is like, drone better. I think that is the conclusion that pretty much anyone would realize working with that kind of an idea. Although the idea of powered mech suit battle armor is really cool. So we've dumped way too much money into that shit. We have a fully like robotic exoskeleton thing already built. And the whole idea of that thing is to carry more weight, move faster and whatever. And the next thing that I would do to it is to bolt fucking armor to it. It's made to carry more weight. So you're going to need to put armor on it to protect its occupant. And then you're going to have it armed somehow because, you know, in that fucking robot suit bullshit, you're probably not going to use a conventional gun. So I don't know how that would work. Of course, there is the idea that you make these things like cavalry, right? Where you have these little suits that you jump in and out of. And you fight out of the suit. But it's like riding a motorcycle. But it's, makes you able to run at 70 miles an hour. Carrying 500 pounds of gear. You can go anywhere that you could run. Maybe more places even. Design it specifically to, do rough terrain. It would be interesting. He seemed to think that none of that shit would actually pan out to a point that it would affect a world war, which he may be right. Like, a lot of people look at the Russians and what the Russians do, and they're like, they don't even run optics on their guns, and their night vision's old, and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. They're only focused on making what they can fucking make in quantity to arm everybody. And, like, once you're fighting that, it doesn't matter if they're slightly technologically behind you. Like, if there's 8 billion of them. Okay? Like, if they have bolt-action rifles and you have fucking belt-fed machine guns, that makes a difference. But, like, if they have fucking AK-74s and you have M4s and you both have belt-fed machine guns, you're going to find that their shit works pretty damn well, actually. That's the sad part about most of the Russian shit, is most of it works very, very well at the kind of war that they are getting us involved into in the fucking Ukraine. There's a lot of talk now about strategic nuclear shit, too. And I don't know about that stuff. It's just my opinion. I think that nukes are like gas was in World War II. In World War II, everybody thought that gas was just going to be used left and right, and no one ever fucking used it at all. I think that's going to be much the same as now. I think we're going to see a full-on fucking land war in Europe with no large nukes used. There will be tactical nukes used. I don't think we're going to see cities wiped out. I don't think we're going to see fucking any of that shit. We're going to see some tactical nukes used on armies and shit, I think. Maybe even like some strongly held cities that are mostly evacuated of civilians. And this is the punch in the face that you should be getting ready to take. Is we're going to get nukes used on us. There's going to be a substantial portion of our military or our population that's just going to cease to exist. You could be in that portion of that population. So you should make your fucking peace with God. And you should start acting as though you might die tomorrow, because you really might. Live your life so that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no man about their religion. I forget what it said, something about trouble no man about their religion and insist that they not trouble yours, or something along those lines. I don't have it written down here, but like that's one of the greatest quotes of all fucking time. If you've ever read that whole thing, it's a quote from Tecumseh. Trying to think of what else he says in it. Always give a salute to a passing friend or even a stranger in a lonely place. Prepare your death song and sing it proudly on the day when you go over the Great Divide. One of my favorite things that Native Americans do is when they know they've lost, they fucking draw knives and tomahawks and shit and just start singing their fucking death song. That's basically saying, you can take me prisoner when I'm dead. You know, you start singing some yappy yaddy fucking. Let me see if I can do some of one I've heard before. The one in Jeremiah Johnson is the one I'm thinking of right now. Is yup in your body. He does that kind of on repeat for a bit, holding a fucking knife and a fucking stone tomahawk. And Jeremiah just doesn't shoot him, just walks away. And I think that's what I would do. And I think that's Milius again commenting on, like, when the Raizuli duels the German officer in The Wind and the Lion, at the end of all of it, he could kill the German officer. In fact, he swings his sword at him and scars his face and pulls his sword to where it just barely nicks him instead of going clean through him to the ground. I'll leave you alive because I respect you. So, I guess if we're going to get nuked, I'm going to go out singing my death song and being me. That's kind of the message of this. If we're not going to get nuked, then I'm going to fucking also be me. Just going to be violent as fuck. And, you know, a lot of people don't get that I really do put a lot of work into exercising and being better. I get a lot of shit about being fat. I'm gonna be a little chubby always. It's like, welcome to genetics, I guess. I don't know. I've starved myself for the last 2.5 years. Ever since June of 2019, I basically haven't eaten food. Not in a way that you would consider as normal. I've lost a substantial amount of weight. I've lost more weight than most people weigh. Like, this is one of those things that, like, this is its own fight. Fight it every day. Most days I actually do pretty well. Today I did not, but we're not going to talk about today. Today I made Spam and eggs and had some fucking chocolate chips and a margarita. But, you know, that's part of it too, is when I do eat now, I eat totally fucking different than I used to. Like, you think, oh, well, chocolate chips and a margarita aren't good for you. Well, I didn't have that many chocolate chips. And I have milk chocolate chips around just for when I want some chocolate. I put it to you that a handful of milk chocolate chips is probably not the worst fucking way to have chocolate. The Spam and eggs, I actually think that's just good for you. Like, Spam is probably debatable, but I think bacon is honestly good for you. And my supposition on that is basically every fucker I've ever known that lived to be in their 90s or 100s, they ate bacon like it was going out of style. I think there's something about just relaxing and eating normal shit that's real shit that is good for you. If you really want a diet to follow, here's what I try to do. If it was around in 1700, I will eat it. If it was invented after the year 2000, I'm probably not interested in it at all. If it's in between 1700 and 2000, I evaluate it on like a case-by-case basis. But unless it's something real natural that's newfangled, I am not going to include it. I hate to be that way, but like that's the only way really to be with food now. They're poisoning us. This is the thing that pisses me off more and more every day is half of the shit that I'm being forced to buy now just because the economy's so bad. I'm like, man, I really don't want to be eating that. They're going to force us all to fucking eat worse. Like, I don't know what the answer is to that shit. I would really watch what you buy and who you buy it from. For canned meats and shit, I trust Hormel. Other than that, I tend to buy like tuna and shit like that. Chicken, salmon. Those are all from companies that I would trust too. So that's the most important thing to me is the canned protein. Vegetables are relatively easy to grow, and we have some cans and shit, and we can make it through basically without that shit if we really had to. It would suck, but you could make it through without that shit. You can't make it through without meat. Not really. Oh, go vegetarian or whatever. Bullshit. Basically, most of the stuff that's actually healthy to fucking eat, in my opinion, is meat. And I kind of want to get